what I would recommend for them is like tapping while they're being a sloth on the couch. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
allow yourself to do that and giving yourself compassion that this is not me. This is a protective strategy that was highly effective.
Welcome to the Cyclical Doula podcast. I'm Emma, a certified fertility awareness educator, miscarriage doula, and the founder of Emma LLC. This space is for women who want to understand their bodies deeply, not just memorize information, but actually feel confident in interpreting their cycles. Here, we talk about ovulation, hormones, cervical mucus, basal body temperature, and all that's messy in between emotional layers that come with being a woman. We talk about trying to conceive, avoiding pregnancy without hormones, postpartum transitions, pregnancy loss, perimenopause, and everything in between. Because body literacy isn't just about charting. It's about the autonomy. It's about informed consent. It's about not outsourcing your reproductive decisions to guesswork or fear. Each week, you'll hear conversations with women's health professionals, birth workers, educators, and researchers, along with solo episodes where I teach practical skills you can apply to your own cycle right away. If you have ever felt like you should have learned this information sooner, if you have ever felt disconnected from your cycle, if you want to raise the next generation without shame around their bodies, you are in the right place. So grab your tea, open up your notes app, and let's build cycle confidence together.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of Emma leads.
Hello and welcome back. I today am joined by Carly Catherine, a certified EFT practitioner who supports women in reconnecting with their bodies, their emotions, and their sense of safety. Carly's work sits at the intersection of nervous system regulation, emotional awareness, and embodied healing, especially for women who have spent years living in their heads, overthinking, overperforming, and overriding what their bodies were trying to say. I am so excited to have this conversation with Carly, to have just like this deeply human conversation about not fixing yourself or forcing healing. But I'm excited to dive into it. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Emma. It's a pleasure being here.
Great. So can you just tell us a little bit more about who you are as a human being?
Yeah. So, as many women, I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a mom. I work in the education system here in Canada, as well as, I'm a lifelong learner. So, I'm constantly taking courses. I love travel. I love people. I love women. And I really just came to nervous system work and EFT tapping because of my own frustration with how I was feeling in my own body. You know, I am someone who, is hyper independent. I'm a people pleaser. I do all things and I feel like I can do it quite seamlessly. And no one would have any idea that behind the scenes, I was struggling.
Yeah.
And I was struggling, in my day to day life. I'd show up to work, I'd do all the things, check all the boxes, I'd do it with a smile, I'd bring the muffins. And of course, they were homemade. I mean, I do
Yep.
love to bake, but, I was doing all the things. And when I got home, I was crashing. The thought of unloading a dishwasher was overwhelming to me. If I had to have a shower plus wash my hair, blow dry, and straighten, it was enough to put me over the edge. And I was just so overwhelmed. And I thought, something was inherently wrong with me. Like, what is wrong with you? You are napping on the couch every day, and not just a little siesta, a little pap. It's like, I can't function. I'm
Yeah.
shutting down. And at the time, I didn't have the language, I didn't have the education, and I had so much shame around how I was experiencing my life and my experiences outside of the public eye, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. I feel like so many people can relate to that, of this idea of like the shame and the not knowing like how we're going to unload the dishwasher, how like yeah, like we're putting on this show for everybody on the outside, but when you come back to your own life, like it just is overwhelming.
It really is. And I didn't have the language, and I thought something was wrong with me because
Yeah.
I'm intelligent.
Right.
I've read the books, I've done therapy, I've done certifications, like, I've done all the things, and I can identify my patterns. I know my attachment style. I know all of the things, but I was frustrated because my day-to-day experience and how I was relating to my world wasn't changing
Mhm.
because I was caught up in just cognitively analyzing, thinking, and I wasn't I was only operating from my mind channel.
Yeah.
And I think so many of us, like, culturally, that's what we
Mhm.
do, right?
Yeah,
It's
for
it's
sure.
it's what we do.
Absolutely. So, for people who have no idea what EFT
Mhm.
is, tell us what that is and then, like, how you got into knowing about that
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah. So, really basic, EFT tapping stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and what it is, it's a blend of Chinese ancient acupressure, neuroscience, Western psychology, and what we do is we use really simple language to describe how we're feeling in this present moment and holding it in compassion. So I'll walk your listeners through the 9 points we use. And I'm tapping as I do this, listeners. And, sometimes I have to slow down because I know you can't see me. So the first spot is your karate chop. So that would be the fleshy part of the side of your hand. That's your first spot. And then we've got our eyebrows, right where your eyebrows start. And when I'm tapping, I am sending calming signals to my amygdala, which is our threat center, our security alarm, sending signals of safety. In this moment, I am safe right now. Okay. Then we have our temples, and you might feel silly doing it. That just means you're doing it right. The first couple times you feel silly. Okay. And then we've got under our eyes, and I can already feel my body decompressing a little bit. We've got under our nose, under my lip, got our collarbone. And you can do both hands, one hand, left, right, doesn't matter. If you decide to wear a bra, where your bra strap would lie under your arm. And then the last point is your crown chakra at the top of your head. So those are the 9 points that we use primarily in EFT tapping. And it's a body based tool, So I will just do an example here. So I'm tapping, listeners, on my eyebrow right now, and I can say, even though I'm feeling really frustrated in this moment, I'm feeling frustrated with my 4-year-old son. I'm trying to get dinner done. I feel frustrated and I kind of feel it in my chest. My face feels warm. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm telling my amygdala that it's safe for these emotions. And as I'm doing that, I'm taking the edge off them, where I'm allowing my body to process them, giving them space to then move to high vibrational emotions, right? So maybe I'm feeling compassionate, I'm feeling grateful, I'm feeling all of these things. And that's really simply EFT tapping. Of course, you can go into it much more in depth, but for listening purposes, that's EFT tapping.
That's great. So I think the few questions that come to mind, and
Yeah.
obviously, like, working with somebody who's trained and is a
Mhm.
practitioner is going to be important for
Yep.
people who are listening. But my first thought comes to, like, based on what I can see you doing, like, this is light tapping that
Yes.
we're doing. We're not doing
Yes.
this
No.
aggressively.
Yes. Good
Um,
point. Thank you.
and you also were like when as you were like going through the situation, like, you were moving your hands to different points and
Yeah.
tapping in different locations.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool about just, like, obviously, like, you've learned this, you teach this, all of these things, but that getting into that space of just physically having our body have a different reaction to a situation
Yes.
seems like an amazing situation.
And you don't have to go through all 9 points. You can find a favorite spot. I like under my nose, under my lip, and my collarbone. Those are my go tos. That you can also just tap on a favorite spot and it's still effective. You're still regulating. And Emma, even you watching me do that, you are co regulating with me and you are borrowing the benefits.
Yeah.
So, even if you don't feel like, depending on where you are, if you're in complete, shutdown, Just tapping and watching someone tap, your nervous system is gonna slowly start to regulate, which is it's amazing, right? Science.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay, so my brain is going a million miles an hour of all
Yeah.
these different things that we could talk about, but the
There's a
first
lot of
thing
ways we could, yeah.
that there's so many things that we could talk about, and I definitely want to get into the, like women's health and female, all of those things too. But the first thing that comes to mind is because you were just talking about co-regulating. How can you do this, or have you seen with like how you can do this with kids too and
Yes.
teach them? Okay, because I'm like, wow, what an amazing
Yeah,
skill to be able to teach a 4-year-old about
that's right.
like how to figure out their regulation as well.
Yeah, and right now my son is 4, so it's simply I model it when I'm feeling the feelings, as we all do in the human experience. That is our day to day, as well as I work in the education system, and I
Yeah.
work specifically with young girls managing anxiety.
Hmm.
And it is really about anxiety lives in the body. It doesn't live in
Yeah.
your brain. Like, yes, that's where the rumination is and all of the anxious thoughts,
Hmm.
but we need to get out of our mind and into our body. But in order to do that, we need to build capacity and we need to build safety,
Hmm.
right? In
Right.
order
That's
to do
huge.
that. If we
Yeah.
don't feel safe doing that, right? But yeah, it's great for kids, and just even you tapping and modeling that and
Yeah.
giving them, like you can identify how you're feeling. Those emotions are okay to feel that way, and we
For
don't have to
sure.
bypass them or suppress them.
Absolutely. Love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, so what like got you into learning about this and figuring out that this was different than what you had tried
Mhm.
before and really finding freedom from that?
Mm. For me, it really was the body piece.
Yeah.
I intuitively felt like initially it was during COVID when everything shut down. There was no more distractions, for so many of us. And I just intuitively felt like, I know all the things, nothing is changing. I'm sick of my own BS. What is going on here? That being a lifelong learner, being an educator, it's not uncommon for me to be researching, taking little courses, that I just stumbled on this EFT tapping. And I had heard of it previously, I'd kind of seen it, but I knew nothing about it. And I just signed up for a weekend course. And it was a long course. It was 3 days, 9 to 5 each day. By the second day, I was like, this is remarkable. This is going to change the game for me as well as for anyone who is open-minded and willing to give it a go. And then I signed up for my certification. It was a year long, super intensive, and it's just been totally life-changing for me, as a
That's
person.
amazing. Yeah, I love when I feel like so many people in the wellness space, like when they realize that there's a tool that they can use for themselves, they're like, okay, like I have to share this with other people and get into that space of
Yeah.
just being able to share and help
And it
other
was
people get.
really just, giving myself a lens to view my behavior and my patterns and taking the shame away, right?
Hmm.
That was
Yeah,
huge. That was huge.
absolutely. Hey, I'm just popping in real quick to say make sure you're subscribed to the Cyclical Doula podcast on whichever platform you're listening to, and don't miss upcoming conversations. If this episode is resonating with you, please share it with a friend, rate it, and write a review. This is how this movement grows, not through algorithms, but through women talking to women. All right, let's jump back into it. So you were talking earlier about how like anxiety can live in the body.
Mhm.
And you said specifically that you work with girls a lot. So how can we as women like reframe this idea of like that thinking pattern of anxiety versus like it living in our
Mhm.
body?
Mhm. First of all, we need to feel safe building a relationship with our body, because so many of us don't have a relationship with our body. I did not for years. In the relationship I had, I was a bit of a bully to my body, right? I always use the example of like how many of us hold our pee. And I know that sounds so ridiculous, but even a couple weeks ago, I was rage cleaning, as you do, and I was doing the stovetop, and I'm like, "Oh, no, I just have to finish it." And I'm like, "Carly, go use the washroom." And it's it's a physiological signal, and I'm ignoring it. And I'm like, "No, I have to do this for this because this, and I have to." So just even something simple like eating when I'm hungry,
Hmm.
using the washroom when I need to use the washroom. being in tune with what our body is trying to tell us. But in order to do that, we need to build safety first. And the first step really is using tapping, right? Because most of the women that I work with initially, they don't have a relationship with their body. They're second guessing, like, what should I do? How should I do it? What should I say? And the more you do it, the more you trust whatever comes up, the more you don't second guess it, that you're like, I don't know, I'm feeling constricted in my throat. Okay, great. Right. And being curious about that. So, really, the first step is being opened to building a relationship with your body,
Yeah.
first and foremost.
That's so good. I think so many people, I think also like in my field of like reproductive health too, so many people just like don't know, like physically don't know their body. And then also being able to like feel safe in that as well, like as a whole nother layer. And
Whole other layer.
but that awareness and safety is huge. And I feel like so many of just being empowered as women and in ourselves can just come from knowing our body and feeling
Mhm.
safe in. And that doesn't necessarily, I think, always look like, and I'm sure you agree, like it's not always being regulated. It's not
Oh,
like you feel all the
no,
emotions, you do
no.
all the things, and you can still feel safe in yourself specifically.
Yeah, and I love that you touched on that, Emma, because what I tell women is the goal is not to be Zen all day. It's
Yeah.
not to be calm all the time. That's delusional. The idea is I want you to build flexibility in your nervous system where you can first identify and attune to what signals, like, oh, my heart rate is increasing. I'm feeling hot. Okay, that's a signal I'm going into fight flight. And then being able to use a regulation practice like EFT tapping to then bring you back to rest and digest. I like to think of your nervous system as a climate, right? You're going to have storms. Some storms last months, some a few days, but what is the overall climate? Where are you primarily living in fight, flight, freeze, or rest and digest? Identifying that and then building it. So, yes, identify, I'm in fight, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm resentful, and I'm going to use this tapping, and then I can move back to rest and digest. And
Hmm.
you're going to oscillate between the two, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's
Right.
what we're meant to
Right.
do, right?
Yeah. So what about the people who are living in extended seasons, if not like they're thinking about this and they're like, I don't think I've ever lived in a state of rest and digest. How do you get from feeling like you're always living in that fight flight? What like
Mhm.
once you establish safety, how do you then like what's the next step from?
Yeah, the next step really is building regulation practices all throughout your day. Like, it really is. Um, this is something that it's not intensity, it's consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different ones. I use EFT tapping primarily, but working find what works for you. And there's a variety. Singing is great for your nervous system, humming, getting outside, shaking, dancing. And then if you're someone who is you identify, you're like, I'm in functional freeze. Like I identify with what you said earlier. I
Mm-hmm.
can't unload my dishwasher. Then for you, you need rest because your body is using so much energy in a protective state just to keep you alive. So for
Yeah.
you to think that you're going to do this, 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 and this, it's not going to happen because you actually don't have the physical capacity in your nervous system in order
Mm-hmm.
to sustain any sort of protocol, quote unquote. So
Yeah.
what I would recommend for them is like tapping while they're being a sloth on the couch. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
allow yourself to do that and giving yourself compassion that this is not me. This is a protective strategy that was highly effective when I didn't have the context, when I was egocentric, and it
Mm-hmm.
protected me. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful, but I don't need this anymore. And I've got it from here.
It's so good.
I've
I
got it
love
from
this.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I feel like so many people who like I work with and who probably are listening are in these seasons of like young kids or um doing all the things, working and all of
Mm-hmm.
the things
Yep.
as so many of us are, especially as parents and especially as moms. And so you kind of touched on this, but how do you add these practices in those like crazy, messy moments
Mm-hmm.
of daily life?
I would first recommend doing it when it's not messy. So
Yeah.
using it when, like, you can tap on your collarbone while you're waiting for your toast to pop. When you're driving, one hand on the wheel, of course, we want to be safe, but you can go through the points. When you're
Mhm.
watching Netflix, you can be tapping because you're not going to be able to use your toolbox when you're dysregulated if you don't
Yep.
use them when you're regulated, right? So
Yep.
I really recommend just tapping, layering it on to a habit you already do. You can literally tap anywhere. It's accessible, it's portable, and you don't have to do anything. You can talk or you don't have to talk either. It's all effective and supportive. And then, once you are using it, you've built that, then you can just layer it in where attuning. Oh, I sounded kind of bitchy when I said that. That was a bit defensive. I'm going into my fight response. And then you can
Mhm.
you can tap. You can bring that out.
Yeah. That's amazing. Um, what do you I'm sure there's a lot, but
Mhm.
how has reconnecting with your body, maybe you can either tell a personal story or something that you just see other people do, but how does it change the way that like you make decisions and set boundaries, relate to other people, things like that?
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah, everything really started when I started letting my body lead the way. Do I have to make a decision? Like, all of a sudden, do I feel my chest constricting? Do I have a lump in my throat? That's
Mhm.
probably a signal that something is amiss, that I might need to pause and say, you know what? Thank you for thinking of me. I'm going to take some time to think on this and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Right? It really allows us a buffer so we can respond instead of react, right? Because if our
Mhm.
amygdala is constantly firing, that prefrontal cortex where we do all of our decision making, where we make aligned conscious decisions, it's offline. Right. So even if, you have to go in and have a tough conversation with your husband, your partner, a boss, you can tap beforehand.
Mm.
Um, so for me, it really allowed me to tap into my own intuition where I don't second guess myself and I
Yeah.
also don't question it. I'm
Mhm.
not questioning it constantly. I don't need to know the answer. My body has such innate wisdom that that I'm developing, that I've cultivated, that I'm allowing space. And that was not the case prior. Like you said in your work, I was someone who I had no idea about my menstrual cycle. I didn't know if I was here or there because I was so disconnected. And then
Yeah.
I struggled to conceive. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, I don't even know. I've been so disconnected. I don't even know where to start,
Yeah.
So I let my body lead the way. I let it respond for me. And now I also have conscious decision making that I can
Yeah.
decide to be like, fear and excitement can feel the same way that maybe I do want to take this opportunity, even though it feels scary.
Right.
Um, but then I'm also paying attention and I'm not overriding it all the time.
Mm.
I was someone who was constantly over exercising and all these things, overriding, overriding, overriding. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. This is not like I am no expert in the sense. I guess I'm trained in it, but I'm right there along with the women that I support alongside with them. But I would say just intuition and allowing this space. And that's the beauty of tapping is when we take away the noise of these emotions, like the negativity, the frustration, the anxiety, that clouds our big capital self.
Mhm.
And tapping allows us to create space for that self to come to the forefront and share. Like it knows, but we have to
Right.
create a relationship and allow it space and time.
That's so good. I wonder, so I think like when you were filling out the information that you were sharing
Yeah.
with me, you were talking about um like that some people are living in this chronic state of
Yeah.
fight or flight, which we talked about a little bit earlier. But what are you like how are you working with women specifically? I'm not sure if you
Hmm.
work with everybody, but
Yeah.
in regards to that um just like that we're in that, and then also like what are you seeing around hormonal shifts
Mm.
with that
Yeah.
being there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I myself, I think I'm 42. turning 43. I always forget, At some point, you're like, I'm going to stop counting.
Yeah,
So I am
absolutely.
right in perimenopause,
Yeah.
and I am noticing changes in my capacity. And I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And I really wanted to understand not just the hormonal and everything, but the emotional piece, the hormonal piece, the physiological piece. And my estrogen and my progesterone is fluctuating and decreasing. And that is a natural buffer for the part of our brain that's responsible for our stress response, our sleep, and our nervous system. So, for those of your listeners and even like postpartum women as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many hormonal shifts that all of a sudden your nervous system bucket, so to speak, is a lot smaller. So what
Mhm.
once you could easily navigate where you're like, yeah, no problem, I can gladly do that. Your bucket is so much smaller where we're probably reacting more than responding. And we're moving through those 3 states a lot faster because we don't
Mhm.
have that buffer of the progesterone and the estrogen to give us that sort of feel good, to give us
Yeah.
that pause. So, again, that speaks to the biology piece.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I feel like there's so many different things that we can learn about how our body works on that biological level, but then being in tune to like, okay, like this is a change that I'm seeing in this current season can also just be really helpful from that. Like, okay, like I know, like we were talking about earlier, like I know my body, therefore, and then I know
Yes.
like what's changing
Yeah.
in this time.
Yeah. And then you can also have compassion because you're like, yeah, my
Yeah,
hormones
right.
are all over the map. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit crazy from time to time. Oh,
Right.
that's expected. And
Yeah,
that's okay. Right. So
absolutely.
I like to use both and energy, right? I
Right.
can be both really frustrated. I keep going back to that because that's been my real um, own journey.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, really grateful for the
Yeah,
experience, right?
right.
So that both and that's what EFT is. It's holding the both and.
Hmm. That's absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
I What else do you wanna tell people about either EFT or
Yeah.
what you're working with?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, it's like there's so much. What do I want to tell
Yeah.
them, right? You've done a great job of asking some really good questions. I guess the thing is really just hammering home the point that it's not about doing it perfectly. It's not about, because I've for my whole life I've had the mentality of like go big or go home, where it doesn't have to be this 5 a.m. crazy routine that you're getting up and doing all of these things, but really just being open and honest with yourself in where am I? What is my nervous system climate? And then how can I go about supporting myself in order to begin to heal? Because we are all worth that.
Mhm.
And it's not going to happen in your mind, right? We need to have embodied change, and that's only going to happen through our body and building a relationship with our body. Um, and that takes a lot of courage as well.
Yeah,
It really, really does, you know?
absolutely. That's so good. So I have one last question, I
Hmm.
think. So as people we talked about like how people are getting started, what they need
Yeah.
to feel safe and all of those things. What about once they're like in it? Once they've had this routine, they've kind of gotten down
Yeah.
that rhythm of like, okay, like this is a practice that I'm using on the regular basis. How do you then use it in your daily life? I'm assuming that you use it
Yeah.
regularly to like keep up the practice of
I
it, and then
do.
also in those times that you like are having a dysregulated state. Is that right?
Yeah, I love that question. And because it's like when I'm in it, there's so much in it. So thank you for the question. It's
Yeah.
great just to bring me out. Because we've chatted a lot about in the moment, but how I use it that way, but also I use it to rewire my neurological patterns.
Oh,
Right.
okay, great.
So I am someone who has been working on opening my throat chakra and being seen and sharing my knowledge and my expertise. Because most of my life I stayed small because in my nervous system that felt safe. Right. So, what I do now is I identify my limiting beliefs. I identify the things that are keeping me stuck, and I'm actively working with statements to rewire my brain, to build capacity and safety in my nervous system so I can go out and share, so I can go out and do the work that I know I'm meant to do. 10 years ago, absolutely not. I would not have been able to do that because that didn't feel safe in my system, that I would have shut down, I would have procrastinated, I would have self-sabotaged, and I still do that because that's the human experience. But it's like chipping away at it. You're slowly titrating. You're titrating, and you're slowly getting closer to where you want to be. And that's what I'm doing is I'm rewiring my brain so it feels safe to feel expansive. It feels safe to have 100 people looking at me while I'm sharing. So
Yeah.
it feels, and it's going to be different for everyone. Like for
Right.
me,
For
that's
sure.
been my journey in being seen and sharing and my throat chakra. But for someone else, it might be holding boundaries. It might be codependency, self-worth. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to the same sort of things. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel safe. I'm not enough. It's just disguised different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's how we can really, and that's when it's helpful to work with a practitioner
Hmm.
because our job is picking up all those limiting beliefs. And then you're using your language to create even those statements that respond to your nervous system to then allow it to be safe and then to be expansive where you can then do the things and create transformational change because you're not going to create transformational change if you don't change your behavior. And in order to do that, we have to start at the foundation
Hmm.
through nervous system safety and regulation because we can't manage all these symptoms and expect change. And we all have that wrong, myself included. I love a supplement and I'm like,
Yep.
wait a second, I'm dysregulated AF. This
Hmm.
is not going to work.
Right.
I can't
It could
fight in.
have really good properties and it's still not going to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like kind of what I say to
Absolutely.
women is your body's not going to fight inflammation if it thinks it's being chased by a bear. Right? So I hope that answers your question, but that's how
Yeah.
I personally use it
Hmm.
um, in a bigger sense of really creating a different life for myself.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And thank you for sharing that because I think that's really helpful that it's not just a tool
Mhm.
for regulation and feeling safe, but it really can be a tool for like expansion
It
and
is.
manifesting or whatever words people want to
Yeah.
use within that. And growth, I think, is a huge part of that of just like goals of I think it's like what an amazing thing of being able to take the things that we want to be and being able to really like dig deep into that and finding those tools to help make it happen.
Yeah, because so many of us, we don't allow ourselves to sit in joy.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't allow ourselves to sit in feeling expansive and powerful and confident.
Mhm.
That's like big, tall poppy syndrome. We don't do that.
Right.
So in session, this is a space where you're encouraged and we tap and we say, like, where is that joy? Where does that joy live in your body? If it had a color, what color would it be? Right? Like all that sensory piece through the body, because we should be spending time there, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. So you mentioned sessions for
Mhm.
like the average person that you
Yep.
work with. How often are you working together and for how long?
Yeah. So I've had women that I work with for a year, upwards of a year. What I like to say though, the sweet spot is 6 sessions. If you're coming to me for one session, no, you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
you're
feel
gonna
like that
feel
would be useless.
silly.
Yeah.
You don't even know because it's very slow and repetitive
Right.
because nervous system doesn't speak in words.
Mhm.
But 6 sessions is the sweet spot. And then either people are like, hey, I'm going to go off and do my work, or I'm like, okay, now I'm really into it. And I'm going to like,
Mhm.
now this is what I want to dig into. And I usually see them bi-weekly for an hour at a time. And then if that doesn't feel safe to you,
Yeah.
because I get that, where you're
Right.
like, I don't know, I don't even know what I'm feeling. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's valid. I also do online tapping circles with women only, where I facilitate. You just hop on a Zoom call and we are tapping and regulating and co-regulating together.
That's great.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think like what a good way to have both of those options for
Mhm.
people to jump in and feel like they're they're able to grasp it at the place where they are.
Yeah, and because it's one of those things, I try to articulate as best as I can, but until you've experienced it, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
was me too. I'm like, I'll try it. And I did some one-on-one sessions. Like, I don't even know. I'm like, but I'm feeling less resistance. And that's what I kept saying. I'm like, I don't really know, but I just feel less resistance,
Yeah.
So it just feels good.
Yeah. That's great. Fabulous. What are other ways that people can connect with you?
You can go to Instagram at the Carly Catherine, as well as I have a website, carlycatherine.com, and that's the best places to reach me and connect. And I'd love to work with women that, are really ready for some healing and to build that relationship with their body and to have whatever they want to create in their life and feel safe doing so.
That's amazing. I love that. We'll make sure those are all in the show notes. Is there anything else you want to leave with listeners before as we're walking away from this conversation?
I guess just the one thing that I always come back to is you're not broken, you're just dysregulated.
Yep.
That's it. That's it.
Amazing. That should be on a sweatshirt if it's not already. I love that. It's so good. Probably a toddler's sweatshirt too.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, and for just having this conversation with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for being here today on the Cyclical Doula podcast. If this episode resonated with you, the most powerful thing that you can do is to share it. Send it to a friend, text it to your sister, forward it to that group chat. This is how conversations about our bodies start changing. Quietly, organically, woman to woman. If you are listening and thinking, okay, I want help applying this to my cycle, I offer free cycle clarity calls. It's a relaxed conversation over Zoom where we talk through your goals, your charting practices, and what kind of support that would actually make sense for you. You can book one at emma.com/free. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following or subscribe to the Cyclical Doula podcast so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you feel called to leave a rating or a review, it genuinely helps more women find this work. So thank you. You deserve to understand your body. You deserve to feel confident in your reproductive choices. And you don't have to figure it out alone. I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of Emma leads, from motherhood's highs to